onda, my sisters and brothers? Thank you for joining us on Moving as Medicina, a Super Mark Rock podcast. I am Super Mark Rock, aka Dr. Mark A. Lopez. Moving as Medicina is just that, a movimiento, a movement. I am aiming to motivate gente, the people, the community to build healthy habits and rituals by speaking to me, gente, my A1s, mi hermanas, mi hermanos, dope, educated individuals, and exploring their active lifestyles and mental well-being strategies to recognize our collective dopeness in the process. Speaking of dope, educated individuals, I am joined by mi hermano, Dr. David A. Ortiz. Welcome, my brother. Welcome to joining on the Moving as Medicina podcast, aka a veterano to the running community, aka a marathoner and ultra marathoner, aka a chingon father, husband, and partner, aka a proud tejano, aka a champion of higher education, a dope, educated individual. My brother, welcome to Moving as Medicina. Thank you for joining us.
Un mil gracias, hermano. From the Lone Star State, a lot of love coming your way. Appreciate you having me on. It's been a long time coming, but excited to be here.
Absolutely, my man. And I gotta start, brother. I gotta start by saying felicidades on completing the 2025 Chicago Marathon, man. Woo!
Man, that was some experience. Me and 50,000 of my hermanos, hermanas, hitting the streets of Chi-Town, the Windy City, to my back, finishing that. Yeah. No matter how.
You did it,
Yeah.
man. And I gotta say, you celebrated your 30th anniversary of marathoning, brother. You celebrated 30th years of marathoning by 2025. I completed 2025 Chicago. But we'll get into that. But I just wanted to throw that out there to the listeners, to the viewers that are joining us this evening, my man. I wanted to start with that. Congratulations. That's so dope.
Thank you.
So dope, my man. And when did you start running? When you were like 4 years old? 2 years old? When did you start running, brother?
I see how this is gonna go. Flattery will get you everywhere, Holmes. 1983. I traced my roots back to 1983, eighth grade.
Wow,
Eighth
man.
grade, and so what? If you do the math, 42 years, 42 years young. Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Wow, that's impressive, my man. That's impressive. So, Dr. Ortiz, tell us, what's your story, my man? Who are you? Who is this Tejano brother, bro? Share with us.
Yeah. Well, this is going to sound like a little bit of slice of Americana, but I grew up in a small South Central Texas rural town. According to the 1980 census, right there when you drove into Lavernia, Texas, it said population like 600 and change. So it was like less than 1,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had a blinking red light that cut through the highway in the middle of the city. That was it. So
you're being weird for real.
Look, man, I embellish about a lot of stuff, but I'm not embellishing about this. Now, it was literally a blinking red light in town, and that was it. And when I was in high school, we finally got a Dairy Queen, and that was the gathering place every Friday night.
Every Friday,
right? Yeah. But the story begins before blinking lights, and it begins before Dairy Queens. All right. I grew up in that town. I started with the kindergarten class, graduated high school, all in Lavernia. But even before that, there's a story before I even got into school, right? Because I was the proud son of Francisco Ortiz, janitor by trade, and Tomasa Ortiz, factory worker by trade. And I'll get into their story because we can't dissect family and faith and education because it's all going to be a part of the story.
That's right.
So while mom and dad were working during the day, a commonplace story for a lot of our people was being raised during the day by abuelita, right? By granny, by grandma, and who spoke no English, right? She spoke only Spanish except for the few English words she spoke, which were all the bad words. All right. So growing up as a 4.5-year-old, only speaking Spanish and only knowing the English bad words, I had to learn English to go to
So
school.
not much has changed. Not much has changed.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. Especially when you get the two of us together, right? Uh, yeah, so I had to learn English, and I learned English and went to school, and so that was my story getting into school, and but when as a part of that story, I said that my dad and my mom worked full time. Uh, and somewhere in those kind of junior high years, I think, I began to realize something. You know, I, I, I remember coming home from school and there was no one there. But this time I could stay by myself. I remember coming
Mhm.
home from school and my dad, who would started working the night shift at
Mm.
this custodial for this large company in San Antonio, would leave notes like, food in fridge if hungry or stuff like that. And I remember looking at the notes that were on the fridge, and it hadn't occurred to me the way he was writing. He would say like he would spell food like F-U-D, or
Mm.
hungry like H-U-G-Y.
Mm.
And I just thought, that's my dad. I go, I'm not much of a better speller than he is. I go, it must be in the family. Uh, but as I became more conscious and aware of some of these things and started asking some questions, my mom said, well, dad, he never went to school. And so we need a whole separate podcast,
That's right. That's
Mark, to
right.
talk about that. But
Yeah.
my dad was, the family never put him in a position to go to school, never, not kindergarten, not anything. So
Mm.
he was self-taught to read, to write, functionally illiterate. Yet this is the same man who would still sit there every morning and read the San Antonio Express newspaper from front to back. Now, whether
Mm.
he understood what he was reading or going through the motions, I'll never know because I
Yeah.
never asked.
Yeah.
But he was functionally illiterate, self-taught to read and to write. So there was one half of my parental experience, and the other half I learned later. My mom said, "Well, I made it to the not to be outdone." My mom's like, "Well, I didn't finish school either." I'm like, "What?" And she said, "I made it through about seventh grade because my parents, my mom's side of the family, her parents were migrant workers here in Texas, and they traveled South Texas to pick the cotton in the
Mm.
field, or throughout the rest of Texas and the Midwest to pick whatever seasonal fruit or vegetable was ripe to be pulled off vines. And we know that that type of migratory lifestyle does not create a well-balanced field for education. So my mom stopped out in middle school, and then I remember years later, uh, when I finally got into school, I was in elementary school. And I remember, I forget which day of the week, let's just call it Thursday nights. Every Thursday night, going to East Central High School down the road from San Antonio and sitting in the back of the room while I had a bunch of coloring books, that my mom gave me, while her and her comadres sat in class at night school to get their GED. So imagine this. Here I am, probably a second, third, or fourth grader, maybe a fifth grader, sitting in the back of this classroom, trying to learn how to color within the lines of these coloring books. And here's my mom trying to learn how to juggle full-time work, a family, in night school. And somewhere along the way, Mark, I'm happy to say I learned to color within the lines, and my mom learned how to juggle all the things that were going on, and finish her schooling and get her high school equivalency degree. And that, again, years later, the whole totality of that finally really uh, came into fruition for me, and I understood it. And I'll tell you where it is, where I understood it. You know, I went off, I graduated from high school. I went and I got a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M and a master's degree from Texas A&M, and then eventually a PhD from Indiana University. Now, you and I know what it takes to do a dissertation, but we also know what it means to write the acknowledgement page of your dissertation. Okay, so everything had been done. My study was done, it had been approved, I passed everything, and now I was just adding the technical pieces, right? The front page, cover page, and then this acknowledgement page. And uh, and Mark, I remember when I started to get to that acknowledgement page, I'm standing there, or I'm sitting there in front of a computer, and it's blank. So I'm trying to think, what am I going to say here? You know, there's a whole litany of people to thank because it's a community of people
Right,
who get you on this journey.
right.
And I'm staring there at a blank screen, and then it's like out of nowhere, and uh, I'm sitting there, and then I started to get emotional just out of nowhere, and
Mhm.
this single solitary tear starts
Mm.
coming down my eye, and I'm like kind of breathing, and I'm like,
Yeah,
you know how a child, when you take away their toy and they go,
yeah.
they start acting like that. I started just getting emotional, and that solitary tear turned into another tear. And I'll tell you what, to this day, I know the sound
Mm.
of tears, as the sound they make when they softly hit the keyboard and the table underneath you, because that's what was happening to me.
Yeah.
And I remember my fingers just dancing across the keyboard and typing the words to mom and dad. This dissertation is as much yours
Mm.
as it is mine. Yeah, because that was the culmination of two people who that I ever met that had the least amount of education that I ever knew, but at the same time imparted the greatest education to me and the people around them. So that spawned the next 31 years as a higher education professional. It's taken me a chance to work at universities primarily throughout the Midwest, here in Texas, been a faculty member at several universities, been a cabinet member and a vice president at different universities, had a chance to be a chief operating officer at one of the largest Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, Chicano, Mexican American, the whole scope of Latin higher education. And I think back to that, and I said, man, this all started with little 5-year-old Mexican kid who only spoke Spanish and had to learn English beyond the bad words.
Love it, man.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, man.
I appreciate that. It's beautiful. And I mean, you're definitely one of one, even though our stories intersect in multiple spaces as we've shared time and time again from our years of being connected. But I mean, just the journeys that not only our familias have gone on, but
Yeah,
even us, in navigating these spaces as first generation college students. Definitely want to get to more of your journey, my man. I appreciate you sharing
yeah,
with our listeners, with our viewers, an opportunity to connect with you. But I also want to give you a few more flores. I want to give you some flowers. I consider you one of the leading national voices of Latina, Latino, Latinx student success in the country, man. You have over 100 publications and keynote addresses to your name across this country. You've ran over 40 marathons, if I'm not saying, was this 40? Was this number 40? 18
it was
ultras.
well, forget technical, man. It's 40 marathons, 19 ultras, 16 half marathons, and 5 races between a half marathon and a marathon. But I'm not counting.
Not
Okay,
counting, not counting.
I'm not counting.
Chingao, man.
Yeah,
Chingao. That's beautiful. I mean, the impact that you have made, not only for our gente, our raza in education, higher education nationally, but also in the wellness space. And you're definitely a role model in multiple spaces. And I love that about you. You prioritize your wellness, your mental health, your fitness, but also what you've done for our community within education. I mean, I just wanted to give you those flowers, hermano, and just
I
thank you for all
appreciate
that
it.
you've done, man. Absolutely, absolutely. If you don't mind, I do want our guests, our excuse me, our listeners, our viewers, an opportunity to connect with you a bit more. And I appreciate you
Oh,
sharing the familia side, being Tejano, growing up in Texas. But I want our listeners the opportunity to connect with you on a personal, a bit more of a personal level. So I have some lightning round questions. Nothing
ándale,
too, yeah,
ándale, dale shine, man. Let's go.
yeah,
Come on.
that's it. Whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
Don't give it too much thought. All right, listo.
Yeah. No, but let's do it.
All right, my man.
All
Known
right.
you for a
Yeah.
long time, man. So I'm gonna start with this one: Metallica or Iron Maiden?
Maiden. Saw them in 1986. First concert ever.
Favorite concert? Was that your favorite concert?
Actually, my favorite just happened like a year ago. Sammy Hagar.
Sammy
Dope
Hagar.
concert.
Wow. Okay.
It was the 1980s all over again. Awesome, awesome concert. Yeah.
Your favorite electric guitarist of all time?
Favorite electric guitarist. Eddie Van Halen. I mean, he's the man, Eddie Van
Yes,
Halen.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Favorite U.S. city?
Favorite U.S. city? Livernia. Nah, no, favorite U.S. city to visit. I just came from it. Chicago, man.
Chicago. Okay.
Sweet home Chicago.
Chicago. Favorite international city?
Uh, favorite international city? I haven't traveled to internationally, but I would say one of the ports, Cozumel, being out there. I mean, it's a place where a lot of people go, but I found it really relaxing and a place to just chill, man. Any
All
of the
right.
port cities, love them.
Any of the port cities? All right. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
AM or PM runs? What's your preference?
Late night owl PM runs. Yes.
All right. Where are you traveling to next?
For work, fun, or all the above. Well, I'm doing a traveling tour of marathons here in Texas. I'll be in San Antonio in December for a marathon. I'll be in Houston in January for a marathon. I'll be in Austin in February for a marathon. And then I will be traveling to the wonderful state of Colorado with my gente from Isha Advising for a
Hey.
fantastic work trip in Colorado.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Is the tequila or wine?
Yes, you got some? Good Cabernet, man, all the way.
Okay.
A
Okay.
good Cabernet with a long finish, as my wife likes to say, a very mouthy finish. So
All
you can
right.
taste it. It rests on your lips for a while.
Yes. 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 Agree. Agree. Your go-to running essential when running. Like, what do you a must-have with you when you are on a run?
Chapstick.
Chapstick. All
Cha-
right.
I- yeah, always, always,
Chapstick.
always
Okay.
chapstick. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie? Apocalypse Now. Oh man,
Great movie. That's a great
that's a
movie. Yeah.
great,
That's a great movie.
great
Good
movie.
one.
Yeah.
Good one. What are you listening to right now? What's in that? What's on the phone? What's in the home playing? What are you listening to?
Uh, what I just was listening to recently was it's a band called Salvador.
Hmm.
It's a Latin Christian kind of hip hop, uh, jazz, big sound. Look them up on Spotify or look them up on your favorite uh, uh, Apple Music. Salvador. I mean, their music is oof. I mean, it's dancing music,
All
and it's
right.
uplifting, man. It's like crisp. It's clean. You know,
Okay.
get a little get a
Okay.
little God-loving music in you, man. Gotta
Right.
make up gotta make up for all my metal.
Here I am thinking you were just all a rockero, and now look at you
No,
expanding a bit.
yeah,
I
yeah, you
appreciate
know
that.
what? I am. Can you edit that out in post-production and say like Slayer or Metal Church or Exodus as my playlist?
All right, brother. All right. I appreciate that. I appreciate the lightning
Yeah, yeah.
round opportunity for our listeners and viewers to connect with you and get to know you a bit more and some of your interests. So I appreciate you sharing and your transparency with us. So let's jump in. Let's jump into
Sure.
our time together. You just finished the Windy City, Shy City, Chicago Marathon. Tell us about it. Tell us all about that experience. I know this was where your first marathon was, correct? Is that where your absolute first marathon? Now you came back full circle in the 30th anniversary.
Yeah, yeah. So my first marathon, I was a grad student at Indiana, and it was 1995.
Hmm.
And uh, marathoning was still not that big of a movement. It was big enough. Not everyone did it, and so I went and I ran. And I tell you what, uh, I show up. It is literally 32 degrees at the start of this run. And remember, I'm this little Mexicanito from South Texas, and I show up for the marathon in a tank top and Texas running shorts, Lone Star, Texas, three-quarter split, freezing. I didn't know any better, and it was my introduction to marathoning. And then I did it again the following year, and I took a little bit of a break for a few years, just was busy in grad school, I guess. And then in about 2009, I think it was, I had run a few other marathons, but I started running marathons like six or at least six a year. Just like boom, let's just start running them. It just became super addictive. And then before I knew it, it was a chance to run my 30th celebratory year back at the place where it all started in Chicago. And I would say Chicago, next to having run New York City back in 2001, those are the two best marathons in terms of crowd support and just the energy and the feel and what it does to you. Let me splinter off a little bit, talk about Chicago because it's relevant to our topic. Uh, I'm running and I wound up having I think I told you this previously, at about mile 16, mile 17, I started getting some cramps and my race started to go kind of downhill. And again, as a person of faith, believing in providence and why things happen, I turned the corner. Mark, where was I? I was in the Pilsen community, which is the deep in the heart of the Latino and really Mexican
Mexican,
community
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
Chicago.
Mm.
And Mark, it's as if uh, all the all the pain, all the cramping I had went away. Maybe it was the handful of shots of tequila that they were handing out and I was taking, and that's not hyperbole. I was like, why not? And I
Not,
remember that first turn they were playing Selena, like como la flor, and I was like, God, this can't be happening. And I just took one of the older ladies that was there, and we started dancing in the middle of the course. And I was like, you know what? This is what it means to be on your 30th year of marathon. Because I used to be that guy when I started. I trained and if I said I was going to do a 6 mile run, I would do it. If I said I was going to do like a 7 minute pace the entire way, I did it. I'm not going to stop. And back then there was no GPS. So I would go in my car and I would get the route and know where the mile markers
mm.
were. Today, I no longer run like that. And that's why at a marathon, we're all kind of taking it seriously. I'm like, no, I'm going to dance. I'm going to have fun because that's what it is for me. It's my perspective on what this whole the Medicina that my movement is. It's about realizing that this is what it is for me. It's a chance to enjoy. Now, doesn't mean that there's some races where I'm like focused and I just want to run. And there's some races where I'm that old man that, hey, kids, get off my lawn. I get pissed off when people are talking at the start of the race, or someone pulls out their cell phone at mile 6 of a marathon talking to their friends. I'm like, no, focus on what you're doing. I got to remind myself, hey man, it ebbs and it flows, and it's for you what it is, and it's for others what it is. But Chicago, love all the
Mm.
way. Chicago, love that.
I can't wait. I mean, been trying to get in for since I started marathoning myself, man, and I'm over at the moment. So Dios quiere 2026. 26 is going to be my year. So I'm trying. I've heard
Make
from you. I've heard from others. Of
Yeah, yeah,
course, that's how special it is, especially to your point of running with amongst the gente in the barrio. How special that is. I mean,
yeah.
it's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. And you began as the running as a cross country, right? You in your younger days, you were part of. That's how your entry into running. Can no cross
Uh,
country or no?
yeah. Uh, with the year that I graduated from high school,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that following year they introduced cross country. So I missed
Okay,
like real cross country, but I ran track.
you did run. Okay, okay, okay. You ran track.
And I started running track in 7th grade,
Mm,
and that's when I realized, like, wait a second, at that point, the town of Livernia was there were a lot of Polish and Germans, and that was a larger part of the community. And so I didn't really know any other Latinos or very few African Americans that were
okay.
athletes. It was mostly kind of predominantly white students at that age, and those are the ones who were very athletic, big
Mm,
big polacos, and but then here I was. I realized I had an affinity for running, and was beating all of them. I was like, wow, I went through that spurt, where I lost all my baby fat, and all that, and I just kind of transformed and went undefeated in middle school in the mile run. And I was like, wow, I got a little bit of game, I guess, and then ran all through high school. Went to regionals in the mile, the 2 mile, And then if I didn't go to regional in that, I ran on the mile relay, and I was the anchor, Mark. Not because I was the fastest, because I was the slowest, because our coach believed in putting the fastest runners first, built that big lead to demoralize all the other teams, and then Ortiz, God is our witness, don't blow the lead. And I can neither confirm nor deny that I may have blown one or more lead during that time. And so I did that in high school. It's really where the genesis happened. Then I
So
went
so
to
what? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said then I went to college, and I was joined the running club, was president of the Roadrunners Club at A&M, and then at
Mm.
Indiana, me and another grad student, John Brannigan, started the Indiana University Running Club. So everywhere we went, we're like, running was just following me. I mean, like literally, it was a part of wherever I went.
So let me take a step back because I know it started early for you, and when I knew high school, middle school, but what was it for you? Why did you believe that this was the space? Yes, you lost some of the weight early on, of
Yeah.
course, but it wasn't basketball, it wasn't soccer, football, it wasn't baseball. Running was your jam. What was it about it?
It,
You remember?
yeah. Well, I still did basketball. I played basketball. I played
Okay.
tennis. I did all those, but uh, I don't know. Oh man, I'm feeling a good trigger, a good trigger. Uh, I remember it was, I want to say 1982 or 1981. You'll have to Google this and really find the correct response. But it was, I think it was the Boston Marathon, and I was watching it on TV,
Mm.
and it was Jeff Smith and Rod Dixon. Jeff Smith, I think from maybe from Great Britain, Rod Dixon from New Zealand, and they literally were battling it out. And Jeff Smith had to increase the lead, and he literally was run down by Rod Dixon like in the last 100 meters. And there's this iconic photo of Rod Dixon because it's like raining, it's kind of misty, and it's like picture perfect. There's this iconic photo of Rod Dixon crossing the finish line and falling to his knees like this. And I
Mm.
was like, what did I just see? It was like electric. And and then a few later that year, uh, I'm forgetting his name now, a Latino, Albert Salazar. That's it, Albert Salazar. Uh, in 1983, won the New York City Marathon in a world's record. And so I was like attuned to what was happening at a national level.
Mm.
And I remember my first pair of running shoes were Dixon Racers after Rod Dixon. And then
Mm.
I subscribed to Runner's World magazine, which later became Running Times magazine. And I was, when I would go with my grandma to the little pueblita, to literally a general store, I was like, I asked grandma for two magazines. I go, grandma, me compras el Runner's World y me compras Pro Wrestling Illustrated? I was a big wrestling fan, like lucha libre wrestling.
Lucha Libre, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, because me and my grandma, we'd watch Lucha Libre in Spanish on
Yep, yep.
Saturday afternoons, and she would get all animated, like, "Mira este cochino, tata, ¿qué está haciendo? What is this madman doing? This dirty player." So to answer your
Yeah.
question, is there was the running boom was starting to happen in the early
Mm.
80s, and that's I think it coalesced with my interests, and I got hooked. Man. I got hooked, and just because again, we didn't have a lot of money. My mom, broke the bank with like a $35 pair of Rod Dixon running
Mm.
shoes. And that's all I needed, and my Kmart running shorts and one of my Fruit of the Loom t-shirts. Y vámonos. That's all you needed, man. You didn't need any other gear than that.
Still, man, you don't, man. And now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry with
Oh,
all the gear, right? All the
yeah,
gear.
yeah, man.
But I appreciate you sharing that. I hated this space. I could not stand. I was heavier growing up. I was asthmatic growing up, and it hurt. It did not feel good to run. And for me, it was out of disciplinary purposes because I was a big baseball player growing up, and we were in trouble. We did something. We messed up on the field. Go to a lap. Go run to go run to the trees. Go shag ball. And it was out of disciplinary, and I just could not stand it. But now, as we've shared time and time again, I can't imagine my life without it.
Yeah.
I just cannot. It's my time
Well,
for healing. It's my time for prayer. It's my time to communicate with my ancestors and the universe to experience joy, as
yeah.
as you really articulated. And it's my modality that I chose to really focus on my mental health and well-being.
And
That's my time.
I feel kind of blessed in a lot of ways to have had an insider's view of your transformation through this process. Because there were a few points in your journey that we've had an intersection, and I remember those. I remember my wife Sarah and my daughter Maya and I were. I think it was in. I always remember the dates. I think it was in around September of 2020, and we were. This is kind of still COVID-ish time,
Yeah.
and we were on our. We have a cabin in southern Colorado, and we were going there because we had to get out. We needed to escape reality and find some fantasy in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains of southern Colorado. Remember, we're driving in Colorado on our way to the cabin, and my phone goes off. I was probably listening to Iron Maiden or Metallica on my Apple Music, and then I go, "It's Mark." I go, "Honey, I'm gonna take this call while I'm driving." And I remember you calling me, and you had just started getting into any. We had talked about it before, and you called me, all weeked out, all kind of like, kind of bummed. And I don't know if you remember this conversation,
Oh, I do.
because you said, no matter what I do, I'm having trouble, kind of not just staying motivated, but I'm not seeing the return on my training. And basically you're saying, what's happening? I'm stuck like in neutral gear, and I'm not seeing that progress. And I think I had like this really great response that I gave you, unbeknownst to me. We were going through the mountains, and the phone disconnected. We reconnected. And I couldn't remember what to tell you, But what it was for me was like, the impact that something like this, just lacing up shoes and hitting the streets, hitting the trails, hitting the track, it impacts us in so many different ways. And to see what it was doing for you, and I know you were going through transformational phases. I mean, we all do. We can all talk about the role that it plays, and the way that we feel supported by the community and by our own individual journeys. You know, and if I could, can I deviate just a bit? Do I have a second?
Absolutely.
Because there was you and I talked a couple of months ago, and I said, "Hey, man, don't ask me to be on this Movement as Medicina podcast." All right. I don't know if you remember that either. Like back in June,
I
I said,
do.
"Yeah." I was like, I love you, like familia, but I don't want to talk on this thing. And I said, but then I started to think, when you asked here recently, I was like, no, because there's another voice I thought that needed to be heard. And this is not to deride any other concepts of running, but I think you speak so eloquently and with such great passion about the community of running, and the way the community of running, particularly for our Black and Brown brothers, our Indigenous brothers, our Asian brothers and sisters, those that often, uh, you know, aren't introduced to this concept of running. Look, you and I know when we lace up, when we go to a marathon, ain't a whole lot of people that look like you and me racing. There's not, and I don't mean just by skin color, I mean by income tax brackets. Okay, it's a
Absolutely.
very different audience of people who are doing this.
Mhm.
So I get the importance of the community. I go, but for me, uh, this running thing is a very singular journey. It's a very much a David journey, a place where I don't let a lot of people into this world, because it's my fortress of solitude,
Yeah.
if you will. It's that place where I'm like, it's a place where I laugh, I cry, I engineer new ideas, I write grants while I'm running, I write new programs. I think about new innovative things I want to do in the world of work, the things that I have a chance to touch. Very few people, I think in the last 15 years, there's only been a handful of people who I've even gone on a run with, and all but one of them have been my kids.
Mm.
My uh, all of my kids, and three of them today, we still go on runs. But in the last 15 years, I've only let one other person enter this fortress of asphalt solitude, and that was you, you know? Uh, and I'm like, and I think it was at my insistence. I was like, "You're here in Texas. Let's go for a run."
Yeah.
And again, Providence. I don't know what you want to call it, but unequivocally, the way it's worked out, you've
Yeah.
kind of permeated and saturated that domain that I've kind of kept so clinging and close. And the reason is that uh, I just that's my journey, right?
Yeah.
And for some of us, that's really what it is. And that's not to say I'm not even that introverted. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. I love people, I love being around them, but it gets to the point of the journey is different strokes for different folks. And so I thought it's great to be here, to be able to be in community with you and the folks listening to this podcast, but also to say, for a good number of us, it's an intentional, singular journey that gives us a chance to rebound, refresh, heal, and become invigorated again.
Amen, man. And I cannot thank you enough because you have let me into this world that you hold very close to you. And I recall the first time we ran and laced up, and you sharing with me just you are just not into the run club space. And I mean, I know you mentioned college, of course, and creating these spaces, but you emphasize that this is my time. This is my solitude. This is my time to think, to process, to pray, to heal, to cry, to laugh, do what you need to do during that space. And that is something that I do not take for granted or take lightly because I know what that feeling is like being, especially those long, hard runs when you're by yourself, early morning or late nights when you're training and you have to get these miles in. But what that means to come through, because there are others in spirit with you that are still with us today, but also that have elders and ancestors that have passed on. I believe, and
Yeah.
this is not something that I take lightly when you have welcomed me into that space for
Mm.
you, because this is something that I want community, specifically as you mentioned, our Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian American brothers and sisters, to experience that feeling of connection, that joy, that sense of just, my goodness, there's no feeling like it. And I'm not even speaking about the running high, the quote unquote, the endorphins, etc., but just the feeling that you mentioned, David, that you are at peace and joy. I think just they intersect, and really just it's a beautiful space that I truly wish I would have discovered earlier on in my life, but it wasn't my time yet. I believe that. But now I just it's my medicina. It's my
Yeah.
place to heal, my time to pray, my time to laugh, to be in my thoughts, to be in my music, to be just be, to be me.
Hmm.
So I say all that because I'm just grateful that you've let me in twice.
That's right.
Twice.
I forgot about that Philadelphia run. Oh
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Mark, I'm gonna pull back the curtain a bit. Mark and I, I'm in Philadelphia for some work, and he's like, let's go for a run. I'm like, all right, let's do it. The weather was really nice. It was crisp. It was beautiful. What's the river that cuts there?
Schuylkill River. Schuylkill River.
There you
Schuylkill.
go.
Schuylkill River.
Schuylkill,
Mm.
beautiful area. And Mark and I were driving. He picks me up at the hotel. We get to the joint where we're going to take off from. And I thought I was like in the 1980s, like let's get physical, workout because Mark's there doing stretches. He's doing all these, downward facing dog yoga moves. He's jumping jacks. And I'm sitting there like, wait, do I need to break out a cigarette or something? How long is this going to take? And you're like, don't you stretch? And I'm like, oh, come on. Like I'm 55 years old. Why am I going to stretch now? Why am I going to stretch? And I think you like, I felt like you actually got kind of mad at me when you were like, dude, you got to take care of yourself. I'm like, look, man, I'm sorry. Sorry. And that's, I think, probably where I started talking to you about, hey, man, I'm a minimalist when it comes to this.
You did.
You know, I don't stretch. I don't. like I said, I still have the like not Kmart anymore, but like the Target running shorts, or I run in minimalist running shoes, which have almost zero cushion in there. I go, I, you know, I
I'm gonna hit the mute button so our listeners and viewers don't hear this because I'm a pro warm up and pre post stretching kind of guy, man. I want our listeners and viewers to listen to this. This is my goodness, man. I was never thinking when you told me that. I was just like, I was taken aback, seriously, taken aback when you said you don't warm up, you don't stretch. Like,
look, dude, I felt it. I was like, shit, I think I just pissed him off, man. Because you were like, wait, you don't do what? I'm like, can we just go? I was like, I'm anxious. I'm ready to hop into this and do it. I'm like, can we just go in here? I'm like, oh my God. I go, how tight is that hamstring? Damn it. Can't you just, can't we just go? Yeah.
that's right. That's right. And I'm surprised you invited me back to run with you
Yeah.
again
Well, yeah,
after that.
it was a strategic move, man.
Oh my
Mm,
goodness, man. We had a good time. We had a good
yeah.
time, man. And had the opportunity to, while we didn't run side by side, but we did run the Houston Marathon together. We
Oh,
did
yeah, yeah,
2 years ago now.
yeah.
That was the good brother Wendell Hall's first marathon. We were
Sweet.
there,
Yeah.
his actual inaugural marathon in his backyard, and you were there represent as well. I know you, that's one that you try to do every year. Great space, great marathon. But yeah, so we've actually rocked out a few times. Been looking forward to. I know you've been trying to get me into Austin, that nice hilly course in Austin.
Oh, man. It's one of the, and people don't think Texas, it was hard. It's a hard course, but it's my favorite in terms of like just Austin. I mean, Austin is it's a rarity, the type of course and how fun it is, and it's a big party afterwards. Oh,
Right,
love it,
right,
love.
man.
I got Philadelphia in my scope too, man.
Okay,
I know you're, I got a place to stay when I get out
absolutely,
there.
absolutely, yeah.
But it's on the
Let's
radar.
plan. Let's plan.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly 26, man. But Este, I want to ask you, man. I want to ask you. I know you mentioned early on in our conversation about when we show up in these spaces, we look around. I mean, this space is not new to our gente. I mean, it's in our blood. It's in our DNA. Our ancestors are runners. Whether it's Aramuri, Tarahumara, the indigenous of Mexico, number of communities practiced running as in their communities. And we look around these spaces and we're far and few between, whether it is because of the access issue, whether it is a number of factors. We'll leave it at that, a number of factors. But I strongly
Yeah.
believe that representation matters in these spaces as a Chicano, as a brown man, as an educator, as a movement enthusiast, that we belong running, cycling, yoga, strength training, hiking, that we belong in these spaces. I believe that representation is huge in both in fitness and education, as we are a handful, as we are both in higher education.
Yeah.
How do you show up as a role model? And I believe you are, and I say this with intention, you are a role model in both spaces, for especially for those that are coming up in higher education as scholars, as practitioners, as aspiring administrators, but also as a seasoned runner, marathoner, ultra marathoner. How do you show up as a role model in these spaces?
Well, one of the real practical examples I can offer you is as I have moved around and have worked in different positions, what has become the regular calling card that I ask of a search committee when I am going to that campus. I say, look, I'm going to be up, and you know me, I'm not a morning runner. But I say I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. for a run. I go, who can you have at that run with me? And I'll first ask, can you have students in there? I'd like for you to ask some of the students to be in that. And I will specifically point out, can you have a diverse representation of students?
Mm-hmm.
So I've done that in the past. Show up for a campus visit, and as part of that visit, integrate a morning run. Now,
Mm.
there's been some spaces where they've told me no, and it's because they get locked into this idea of this Western idea of equity in the job search, and they go, well, if we let you have that, then it's not going to be fair to the other candidates. And I'm like, and I'm a little bit at a loss for that. I mean, I understand this idea of schedules need to look equitable, this or that. And I'm like, okay, then why don't you ask your other candidates, put this on the schedule for them to have time outside of a classroom, outside of a presentation space. Ask them to walk the campus, have them do a walking tour, have them do something that takes them from a space that's not your typical place you're going to be during a campus visit. Like, well, why can't you change your process? Because otherwise, you're not going to expose the students to this type of adventure. So that's one of the things I do to try and be out there. And then other things, take advantage of uh, when that space presents itself. So many years ago, I went to a TRIO conference with the Council of Opportunity and Education,
Yes,
and it was
yes.
here in San Antonio, and they were doing a 5K, and I'm like, well, I got to support. I got to support. I went out there and Mark, it was awesome. We ran around San Antonio city blocks and just running with people who weren't runners, but we were there to support each other. It was fun. I've done it at AERA, the American Educational Research Association, when I went to their conference in British Columbia and ran there as a part of AERA. So it's one of those where, there are times where you put yourself in those spaces where you can be seen. And I think I've even done some kind of little cover stories with campus newspapers talking about, my running and how it helps me make connections with students in that sense. So, uh, uh, and then also when a student walks into my office, I don't have a lot of stuff up, but I'll have my running posters. And, I got my degrees kind of hidden in the corner, but I have my running posters. I have 3 medals that I have displayed under shadow boxes. Chicago Marathon, my first marathon ever. I have New York City Marathon because it was right after 9/11, about 6 weeks after 9/11. And we ran through a decimated city, not just in structures fallen, but in lives ruined, lives lost, and people just trying to survive, trying to survive. And that medal meant so much to me. And then my third one of the most beautiful marathon I've ever run, the Big Sur Marathon out of Chicago. Those are I'm sorry, out of California. Those are the only 3 medals that are there. So they spark conversations. When I was at this last job, one of the police officers came in who was from New Jersey and grew up in New Jersey and I forget which borough of New York City. And we started talking. He's like, I want to get back into maybe running and exercising. And so we touch we make these contact points and we touch these lives in places all around us. But it's you said, you need to be open to sharing that story and physically being in that space and helping other people get into it. So, and I realized that, I realized these people aren't going to necessarily run marathons. Some might, but it's about just moving and getting out there. And that same police officer, while we never ran, we played pickleball together, right? I go, let's go play pickleball then. It's like, all right. You got these 2 old guys with bad knees trying to run around on this little court, hitting this little ball,
No, I love that, David, because that's at the core of movement is medicina. Well, running is my jam. It brings me joy, but I love yoga. I love cycling. I love going for walks. I love hiking. I love the multiple spaces that I can practice movement in.
Mhm.
While I am fully privileged that I get to do these practices. I'm an able-bodied individual that gets to practice these spaces. I love the fact that I'm trying to build a community around movement. Our jam is running, but like you said, you spoke to this individual. While they weren't running yet, but they were interested in staying active and building an active lifestyle, building a healthy ritual in their life, and how that
Yeah,
connection you made with them is critical, because you're absolutely correct.
yeah,
Whether it's a tumbler, whether it is a hat you're wearing, whether it is the medals in your office, it's going to catch someone's attention. Like, oh, that,
yeah.
that,
And what I hear when I get into these conversations, primarily with the professionals that I might work around, is they all said, "Oh, I used to run, or I used to do this." you
That's
know.
right.
And
That's
and
right.
so where does that disconnect happen? And I know
Yeah.
my story might be a little of the oddity, a kid as an eighth grader who's still doing this. I mean, I get it. I mean, that's not necessarily the commonplace story, but the fact that uh, you know, that our communities were probably active, in middle school, high school, and but a lot of communities were active, and then there's a disconnect along the way.
That's right.
Uh, but representation matters with a capital M,
Mm,
and yeah, and
that's right.
again, it really does pain me, and this is not hyperbole. When I toe that starting line and I look around, I'm like, no, we're not really here. I mean, I see it a little bit more being in Texas,
Mhm.
but even then,
Yeah,
not to the level that I would think.
right. Right. And that's right. That's right. I mean, that's why I mean, again, I own my privilege that I get to travel and participate in various races across the country. You look around and just like I shake my head. I mean, I pray, I'm grateful for arriving at this celebration I'm about to participate in this run, but I'm angry at the same time. Like I know we practice running. I know we practice movement. Where why are there so many gatekeepers? Why is it such an access issue? Why are we not, represented more in these spaces? So again,
Yeah,
I think that's at the core of movement medicine and trying to really break down these walls, these access issues, and really bringing movement to the forefront of whatever that space of modality is. And
yeah.
so let me follow up with this. As you shared, you connected with this colleague. What words of wisdom do you have for someone that hasn't started their wellness journey or feel stuck? What would you like
Yeah.
to tell them, man? What would you like to tell them?
Well, you know, it's the starting line happens at different places for all of us. And I'd say, I mean, if I really, honestly, if I'd be very direct and very uh, demonstrative with folks, and particularly, Black and brown people, and I say, you realize that our communities are so susceptible to health-related issues from our diets, things like diabetes and other maladies that are overrepresented in our communities. I go, hey, do you know one of the best ways to try and begin to counter that is through exercise? And it's not running marathons, man. It's running, it's not running 26.2 miles. It's sometimes doing 2.62 miles around the block, and just slowly getting out there. And it can have a tremendous impact on your health, and not just for you, but for you to extend your life, if you to begin. If you're exercising, sometimes that also kind of encourages you to eat better, and not getting preachy, okay, not getting preachy. But I had my own health scare, pulling back some of that curtain, and abnormal tests came up, and the doctor said, "You tests are coming back representative of someone who would be obese,
Mhm.
incredibly unhealthy, David. Let's send you to a GI doctor for some further evaluations." And I was like, but wait, man, I run ultras. This can't be happening to me. And I remember seeing the GI doctor, and he said, let's try and manage this by taking out some of the food and he said that Mexicans eat. The diet is predisposes you to all sorts of liver issues, all sorts of health issues. And I was like, okay, my movement was Medicina only so far in that case. You had
Right,
to compound it with changes in
right,
diet, this or that. And for me, I guess my daughter Maya was probably about 2, 3 years old at the time. And I'm an older father. I had her when I was in my early 40s. And I was like, well, dang, if I really want to be around for this little angel of my life, let's talk about it. So the movement is Medicina idea triggers a whole avalanche of other things that we should be doing in our lives. It becomes just an excuse to talk to people about, look at your overall health, look at your overall wellness. And you're right. I mean, movement is my jam. It's the moxie in my step, but it's not for everybody. man. And I get that. I know people who are hardcore cyclists. I could never do that. I'm not built for that. I don't want that. I can't afford that. But find what works for you, right? So this idea about this dopey little guy running marathons becomes an afterthought, and it's more about who are we? And honestly, we had deeper conversations. So this idea of wellness and mental health uh, is it's bridged by this first conversation of, oh, what's that medal for? You ran a marathon? Like, yeah, I used to run too. Oh, really? That. When was your last checkup? Have you had a colonoscopy? What are your PSA levels like? Uh, and they're like, yeah, I can't believe we're having this conversation. I'm like, you know, we don't talk about these things, particularly as men of color. We don't normalize conversations about doctor's visits, about uh, all sorts of other maladies that we face. We just
we,
don't.
we, we don't, my man. That's what I love about my village, some of my closest friends. We hold each other accountable. I mean, we're of an age and a demographic that why haven't we scheduled that appointment? Hey, I just did mine. Where are you all at? Why haven't you done
Yeah,
so? Normalizing those conversations to your point, normalizing therapy, mental health practices. Another piece that we just do not, especially as Mexicano men, as Chicano men. Dios mío, that's
yeah,
just a taboo topic.
yeah.
Growing up, the way where we come from, man, and normalizing those conversations as well, because that silent killer of stress, of depression, of anxiety, of
Yeah.
wait, man,
Yeah,
it's
again, at the risk of, you know, being too honest, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was you maybe that I said this to just last week or sometime about like me experiencing, unbeknownst to me, a panic attack. I don't remember who I was talking to, and I told him, I said, "Man, we need to normalize being able to talk about this because I had no idea what was happening to me, I just realized I was like hyperventilating. I got very hot. I was walking on campus, and I was like, all right, I can't let anyone see me like this. My first thought was like, I have to mask what I'm going
right,
through and
right.
try to understand why this is. Oh, I knew I was happening. I think I was having some mad, crazy board meetings and other things, and it was just so much going on. Higher education went through a little bit of stuff in the spring,
A little bit,
right?
a
We went
little
through a
bit.
little bit of stuff, and I tell people quintessentially the most stressful time of my entire life in higher education, 31 years. And and so experiencing something like that and being able to normalize talking to someone and being able to embrace it and not run away from it, and for me, I mean, it was a one-off, and I get that, but for a lot of us, it's not a one-off. It's something that we deal with on a daily basis. And these type, I mean, we just ended with Suicide Awareness Week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and the common phrase, have you reached out to someone? So uh, do we use this concept of movement as medicina as an excuse at the very least to reach out to someone and to do the check-in? Hey man, what's up? How you doing? Anything new?
That's right.
And just talk. Just talk. You might be surprised the responses you get when you ask the questions.
That's right. That's right. And I think that was probably the biggest lesson for me coming out of the pandemic is the life is so precious and not guaranteed. As we know this. But if someone crosses my heart today, I'm gonna reach out. May have not talked to them 20, 25 years, 6 months. You crossed my heart today. Hey, just thinking about you. You came across, hope you're well. So simple as that. Or an email. Hey, you came across my feed today on LinkedIn or social media
Yeah,
platform. Just reaching out. Hope you and the family are good. But just again, it's just
yeah.
that simple gesture of checking in. I think is
And you see, I believe there's an art form to that. And let me explain that.
please, please.
Because I do that with some regularity with folks. And but I try and do it when I send that message. It's often a text message. That's the easiest thing to do. And I try to construct it. Sometimes I will stress over my own construction of the check-in because how many times do we get that text or that check-in and it's to ask a favor, or there's an ask somewhere in there, and I think that's, we're conditioned to think, oh, well, what does Mark want? And he's reaching out to me. What does David want? What does, whomever want? And then sometimes people initially, when I do this to new people, whether mentoring or just friending, they're like, okay, and they're like, I know on the other end they're waiting for it. So what else is he gonna ask? And I'm just like, I was like literally thinking about you. Hope you're fine. I'm doing great. I go, no need to reply. Just wanted to check in. And when I say the no need to reply, they reply because you kind of deconstruct it in a way where it's non-threatening and it feels authentic, because we've all been on the other end where it feels manufactured, right? And this gives us a chance to just do the check-in, and but that only comes about through genuine relationship building, and that's really the case. And I think it's a case in my experience, and I'll speak more specifically to men of color, but by that extension to other people of color, where it's not always immediate and natural. I mean, it is to one degree, but we're so accustomed to having to be on our guard. I'm accustomed to always being on my guard. That when we scale that ivory tower that we all have in education, the space that I'm a part of, and we get to the other side, the love, the affection, the admiration, the jubilation, the conversations become real. And I can tell you right now, in the last years, some of the conversations I've had with people, once we've just accepted that we're not threatening, that we're not competing, we're in this together. Oh, Mark, I mean, it's been
simply having those conversations and having a dialogue about this is we're in this work together. We're building community for the betterment of our students, for our campus community together. We're not threatening. We're not here to take your job. We're here to do work and work alongside so we can uplift the students for our campus. It's powerful. It's
Yeah.
powerful. We've been at this for a while. Both
Yeah.
you and I, we've been at this for a while. We've
But
seen multiple spaces that don't support that.
Yeah, and what we do and why we do it is because we pay it forward.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the people in our lives who have helped us get to where we are today, and I could say they've been a myriad of people.
Yes.
My first real mentor in this field was this ominous statue-esque tall white male who had this very generous streak about him, but he was super intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And he shared things with me that no one else would tell me, and he was like really honest about things. And he guided me. I met him. He was one of my mentors in graduate school as a master's student. And he followed me throughout my graduate career, my professional career. And I remember I was at a conference at NASPA, the National Association of Student Personal Administrators, although they don't go by that moniker anymore, but they go with that brand. And I was presenting my dissertation finding just as a presentation. And I'm halfway through my presentation in the room. And then he walks in. He walks in at the back of the room, right at my line of sight. And I forgot what I was doing for like 3 seconds. I was like, he's here. What do I do? I was like, wait, he's here to support me. And so there've been people in our lives that have been there. And so the answer to the question that we give is that, yes, I will be there for you. Even if you don't think you need me, you may not need me today, tomorrow, but maybe that year from now, a couple of months from now. And it's not just to be a reference, it's to maybe talk you through what you're going through. And then the beauty of that, I'll tell you, this is the beauty, is when that person becomes your rock. When they get to the point where you're calling on them for some ideas, suggestions, the dreaded, hey, you got a minute? I need to talk. That's the full circle of this payment forward.
Right. Amen. Man. Amen. I love it. I love that. I want to ask you, David, you've seen my transformation. You've seen me go through this journey of one that I call healing, of one that I continue to participate and practice actively. And through that healing with others, created this community of movement as Medicina. What comes to mind for you when you hear as well as see movement as Medicina? Being in this space for a minute now, and being and practicing an active lifestyle and being affiliated with a number of wellness spaces. What comes to mind when you hear or see this?
I think of another phrase when I see this that's complementary, uh, and that's in the ultra running community, because I've been running ultras now for about, I guess, 13 years. No, no, no. Yeah, 13. Yeah, 13 years. It took me a while to figure out what ultra running is and what it was not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a phrase that we use in ultra running, and it's relentless forward progress.
Mm.
And I think for me, that movement as medicina speaks very, uh, very much to that concept of uh, we just got to keep moving forward. When we're tired, that means you just take maybe shorter steps. You know, when we're sleepy, you take a quick nap, but then you keep going. You know, whatever those obstacles are in front of you, you there's a way to surpass it. When you see or you speak the words "I can't," think about it in terms of being written in pencil and simply erase the apostrophe and the T into "I can." You know, and I think there's a sense of positivity. I think there's a sense of fun. I mean, that's not, I mean, our conversation's been like so serious. It's like, oh, but at the end of the day, I mean, my gosh, it's something fun about it, you know? To laugh is to liberate, you know, to run is to feel the breeze in our hair for some of us, not you and I so much,
Orale, orale.
right? Not you and I so much, but for other people, right? It's, you know, there's something liberating about it. See, I do this thing when I run in my movement. When I come to a bridge, 99 out of 10 times, if I want a training run, I just stop and I walk a bridge. I don't know why. I just there's something about walking over a bridge, and I try not to think too much about it. I'm not that deep of a thinker in many senses, but when I think about it, it's like for some reason I always walk over a bridge, and maybe there is something metaphoric about that. You know, to walk over a bridge, you know, is to get to over, it's to go over some obstacle or barrier that's below us. But we as individuals, as a society, as individuals have understood the concept of bridge building. You know, and I think that movement has made us, you know, that relentless forward progress. It's about building bridges. And you're right, it's not just about running. And we dominate this conversation with the best sport ever, running. But you know, but if you do what you do and do it to your enjoyment and have fun, uh, you know, I think that's what it comes down to is, you know, to know that you can and have fun along the way. You know, and I discovered this. And I wasn't going to talk about this because it's not. When I was in grad school, I told you, you know, at Indiana, I was always very serious about my running and everything was regimented. But maybe it's just right around the time I ran my first marathon. I joined the Hash House Harriers, right? And it is the best way to describe it is they're a drinking club with a running problem, right? So everyone runs and like uh, there's a hare who takes off running, lays flour, and then the rest of the hounds try and catch the individual. It's an old kind of hare and the hounds race. There's a whole history behind it. Google it if you want. Uh, but it's about having fun. And you have like serious runners, and you have people who don't even run. They walk the whole thing. People get rewarded for cheating and cutting the course and finding the end of the trail where there's beer, a keg of beer, or cases of beer, or water, whatever you're going to drink. There are obstacles set up in the course to slow down the fastest runners. And it's just a lot of fun. And I think for me, I changed my perspective on running. I just realized, hey, you know what? This should be fun, and movement should be fun, you know. And I think that's what I think. I think about, uh, you know, that it's full of energy, that it's hype. Whenever you go right now, I challenge everyone to go to the hashtag movement as Medicina, and I bet 10 out of the 10 tags that are on there are people running and having fun and celebrating and, just having a good time. I mean, that Mark is my 5 minute response to what do I think of when I see movement as
Oh
medicine.
man, I appreciate that. I could not agree with you more. I mean, it is about the joy and being intentional about experiencing joy, whatever modality that you choose. Ours, as again, as we mentioned, it is running, but there are other modalities that people choose that are part of this community and really motivating individuals to
Mm,
practice an active lifestyle,
yeah.
but while prioritizing their mental well-being, their mental health in the process. That not to push that to the side because it's a holistic approach that we're trying to encourage individuals to take into consideration. But
Yeah.
it
And
really is one of joy.
and what I'd say with that is it's also step out or a step back. And as we're encouraging the fun and the joy, uh, and maybe this is the competitive part of me that says, hey, do you ever think about running a 10K and have fun with it? I'm not going to say who this person is, but I have a friend now who, at the age of, I think he's 56, he started running, and it was out of health. Yeah, he was gordito. I'm
Mm,
gordito. I went to college with him, and in the past year, he has started running, and I mean, he's transformed into his Adonis-like figure now,
yes, yes.
posting pictures with his shirt off and being proud, or his sweaty pictures. And maybe a year or two older than me, I mean, he's running, 9 minute miles and he's having fun. And I'm like, inside of us is always this potential. If we didn't know it, if we didn't ask the right question, we would never get the right answer.
Right. That's right.
So my point is go out there, and if you're walking, walk and enjoy it. Or walk fast and enjoy it. It's that old input output theory. Whatever you put in, you can get it on the output. And for some of us, think about that chance to challenge ourselves. Think about it. I tell folks, they go, oh, I can't believe you run so many marathons. I'm like, honestly, I I will take it to my grave and I say, I think anyone can run a marathon. Lace up, go to a marathon, and they are not all, 120-pound runners. I mean, look at us. We're far from that, right? There aren't sculptured, uh,
Right.
uh, uh,
There's
statuesque people there. I mean, it's
yeah.
all walks of life. And I remember running one race. I don't remember where we were, and this older dude in cut off blue jean shorts just zips past me. And I'm like, come on, I know I'm a minimalist, but I think this guy just got some scissors and ripped up his shorts and had blue jean shorts. And this was not that long ago, you know. Uh, and don't judge where people are in their journey, but never
Right. That's right.
underestimate what you can unlock in yourself. It's too safe sometimes, and I get it. And there's sometimes there's a good reason, but uh, think about that what you can unlock in whatever modality of movement that you are interested in doing, and you'll never know what your potential might be.
Amen. You won't. You won't. You won't. You will not, man. Well said. Well said. Dr. Ortiz, last question for you. While I
Yeah.
have you, I often will say, as well as use the hashtag, recuerda tu por qué. Remember your why. And you've touched on a number of, I believe, of your why throughout our conversation this evening. But can you share with our listeners and viewers your why you run, why you show up, why you continue to practice an active lifestyle, why you show up for yourself? What is your why? Es tu por qué.
Hmm. I should have been prepared for that question. I mean, the why, uh, I don't even think about it in terms of a why. I mean, because I think about it in terms of three other letters, DNA. I just think it's in my DNA. Just like I know every morning that sun's going to rise in the east, and I know it's going to set in the west. I know I'm going to run every week, 4 times a week. If I'm super lucky, 5 times. It just becomes uh, an afterthought. It becomes ingrained the way a cup of coffee tastes so good in the morning, the
Yes,
way that a cocktail
yes,
tastes so good directly after that coffee. No, later in the evening, it just becomes a part of the routine. And I don't think about the why. I just think about yeah, it's tiempo. It's tiempo to do this, time to go out. And I may go out with intentions of running 15 miles, and I'll go two, and I'm like, okay, time to go back. I'm done. And then vice versa. I may say, you know what, honey, I'll be back in about 20 minutes. I'm gonna go do, maybe, 3 miles or something like that. And I come back 3 hours later. You know, I come home, and when I was like an ultra training, this is a big why. Why would anyone in their right frame of mind do this? When I was hardcore ultra training, come home from work around 6 o'clock, around 6:30, have a light dinner with the family, let it sit for about an hour, 7:30, 8 o'clock, start putting on my gear, my hydration vest, getting my headlamp on, and saying, okay, I'll be back around 2 in the morning. And this is a Tuesday night of a work week. I mean, people say, why? That's a big question. I was like, because I was training for an ultra because I have to condition my body to run when I am just dead tired. I'm going to be running for 24 hours or more. You got to be able to get past that. And then it just became a metaphor of like, all right, you know, I do this because it's just every Tuesday was what I called half marathon or more Tuesday. Now I would do at least a half marathon every Tuesday night, more if I, could get myself in the frame of mind to do it. But it's just about moving from the why to just it's in my DNA, it's in your DNA, whether it's lacing up to run, whether it's lacing up to walk, uh, doing whatever you do to keep you moving. Let it move from a why to just, hey man, it's in my DNA. I'm just doing it because it's what I feel conditioned.
sharing that. It's in our DNA. It
Yeah,
truly is. I believe
yeah,
that, and it has become culture for us. It's a way of
yeah,
life,
yeah,
and I love this about you and how you've exposed your familia, exposed your hijas, your daughters, to this lifestyle of wellness, of fitness. That it is culture to them. This is who we are. This is those Ortiz. I mean, this is what we do. I
yeah,
mean, they may not be marathoners, ultra marathoners yet, but they understand that Papi Dad's going to go out for his run four to
yeah,
five times a week. That's who he is. That's what he does.
yeah. Dude, it came full circle for me. Last year, 2014, I ran a half marathon with my firstborn daughter, Letty. And we crossed that finish line holding hands and hugging. I know I cried somewhere in there. And then esta huerca went, she's very savvy. She's a communication major. She works in that media. And she created a video. I think it's still on my LinkedIn page. If you scroll down far enough, she created a video where in 2014, when I think she was in middle school, she was doing an interview with me for one of her classes, and there I was sporting my Anthrax T-shirt, rocking out, and she found the video that I said. She goes, I said, oh, she said, what is your wish for me, Dad? Something like that. I said, I wish that you'd run a marathon with me. And then she jokingly said a half marathon, and she spliced it with that video of us crossing the finish line. And I was just beside myself. And now, 2026, Austin Marathon, we're lacing up and we're running it together. You
Oh
know,
man.
that for me, I can't think of a better way to end this than that. It will be a teary-eyed finish for me. It will be a proud moment to cross that finish line with Letty, and and see it come full circle, man. Seriously.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. I can't wait to see and hear all about this, my man. Dr. David A. Ortiz, muchísimas gracias for the conversation, for your insight, for sharing with the listeners, the viewers, a bit about you and your journey, man. I strongly believe that you definitely have motivated some individuals that are going to watch, going to listen, to stay active, to practice movement more so in their lives, man. So I appreciate you sharing your words, your blessing. You are sacred. Felicidades on crushing another marathon. I can't wait to hear about the next one. Where can where can the gente find you? Where would you like to be found? Social media, LinkedIn. Where would you like to people to connect with you?
Yeah, so I guess there's a few different places. If you want the sanitized version of my life, you can hop on to at Dr. David Ortiz on the LinkedIn profile, Dr. David Ortiz on Instagram. But if you want the good juicy stuff, that's by invitation only. Shout out on Instagram at Runner Doctor, Runner Dr, Runner Doctor, and just put in your request. Mark Lopez sent me.
That's right. Mano, again, I appreciate you. I'm constantly inspired by you and your journey. And I mean, I'm just extremely blessed to have you in my life, man. So thank you for the conversation. Again, mi gente, gracias. Recognize, please remember to recognize your dopeness. I strongly believe we are all dope, educated individuals. Like this episode, ask us questions, send us DMs for any questions or feedback that you may have about your journey, about our journey. Follow me at Super Mark Rock on IG, as well as Moving as Medicina on IG. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and Moving as Medicina for this episode and other episodes. Mi gente, appreciate your time. Dr. David Ortiz. Gracias, mi hermano. Paz y luz, mi gente.